Good afternoon and welcome to the Sunset Safari, and also happy World Wildlife Day for all of you conservationists out there and anybody that just loves to partake. What an incredible way to start the afternoon with a pack of wild dogs. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Senzo. And it's been a few months since the last time we drove together, so I'm looking forward to this exciting time. Senzo, however, has disappointed me straight off the bat because he hasn't worn any eccentric outfits today. I thought we were going to have all sorts of amazing things. Next time, though, he's just easing back into it. Remember, this is a live and interactive safari, so if you do have any questions, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter if you'd like to talk to us, or you can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. But that's all from me. I suppose the wild dogs are a little bit more important, don't you think? I just thought I'd try to steal the show there, just for a little bit, though. Now, I'm going to need your help. Please, pretty please, because I don't know which pack of dogs this is. Remember, I have just come back from Kenya, and I'm a bit out of touch with all the things that are going on in the Sabi sand. And there are 9 wild dogs here, if that helps. I can't even remember how big the various packs were. There was the Investec pack, the Sand pack, the Breakaways, all sorts of wonderful critters. Now, they've been quite hot. Ooh, what's everybody heard? They're up and down quite a bit, which is good news to me. So they're not sleeping soundly like hounds can often do. They've also been up and down in mud wallows trying to cool themselves off. And it doesn't look like they've really eaten anything. Maybe there's no blood or anything. They haven't got big bulging bellies, as you can see. So perhaps we might be in for some action. Now, we look at these dogs, and the first thing that you notice is their very Mickey Mouse shaped sort of ears. And Bianca, you've said, wow, look at their ears. Well, it's very important for a wild dog to have super hearing. So the way that their ears are large and concave in shape is very important, and it helps pick up sound from all directions, and they need that. Because remember, these dogs don't stalk their prey like a leopard or lion does. They need to try and chase it down. So if they can hear a crack of a branch or a young kudu pulling a leaf off of a tree, that's basically a death sentence to the animal, because these creatures have got a very, very high success rate. They're one of the most successful when it comes to hunting. So I'm hoping that if we manage to stick with them, we might see something. Now, their ears are pricked and they keep looking around. I did see some fresh tracks of elephants as we were driving up this way. So I don't know if there's maybe a herd of elephants moving in the distance. There could potentially be another predator around. It could be a number of different things. Right, but we'll get into that in a little bit. We're going to definitely stay with these dogs and see how they go. And if they get in the move, we're going to call Scotty D on over to come and help us keep up with them. How fun would that be? The two of us chasing after dogs, crashing through the bushes as we chase after dogs is probably more accurate. But off you go to Scotty to say hello.
Hello everyone, and exciting stuff there with Taylor and the wild dogs. What a pleasant surprise. And I'm hoping that they are going to display just how successful they are at hunting this afternoon, just like Taylor mentioned. Now, we are snooping around, clearly off-road, in an area where a large male leopard was last seen this morning. He was the Hukumuri male who ended up with Tingana, another male's kill last night. Turns out that Tingana lost his kill to hyena initially, and then Hukumuri came in and stole the kill, what remained at least thereof, from some hyena, and finished that off this morning. He didn't actually completely finish it off. There's still some scraps remaining, and he may come back for them, or he may continue moving off in this direction where he was. I forgot to say who I am. My name is Scott, and it's great to have you on board, and I'm teamed up with Seb on camera. Now, I'm thinking, it's just so thick here at the moment after the last little bit of rain that we got, that I'm thinking I might need to take a little bit of a stroll to see if I can't work out where this leopard is. It's far easier to move through this thick vegetation on foot than it is in a vehicle. I'm guessing he's lying up in the shade somewhere. I mean, he appeared to be quite well fed, even though he was feeding on some third-hand remains. So he got a decent portion of them, and he could just be relaxing somewhere here. It's still a very hot afternoon. Very good. Well, we're going to continue snooping about to hopefully find you another predator and send you back to Taylor with the dogs in the meantime.
And we've got one who's enjoying a sassy Saturday dip in a pool. Of course, it's just a mudwaller that's filled up after all the rain we've had. I bet that they are happy about that. Now, it's not uncommon to see hyenas, to see wild dogs cooling themselves off in a pool of water, especially on a hot day like today. Maybe they did get something to eat. Maybe they got something small like a steenbok or a deka. And for 9 dogs, that really wouldn't do too much, but it would just be enough to keep them going. So for a small meal for such a large pack of dogs, probably going to go off and hunt again. And this is a very good area for impala. There are often large herds around in this area. Not shy to get its body completely covered. Now, Bridget, you're wondering what is the largest prey that a pack of wild dogs could bring down. Well, they've been recorded bringing down wildebeest. Juvenile wildebeest seems to be on their menu. Again, you could have young waterbuck, young zebra. I think a fully grown zebra would be a bit of a challenge for a group of wild dogs because they're feisty creatures. So I would say probably a sub-adult wildebeest is about as big as it gets. I'm trying to think. I haven't even seen them take down a wildebeest. What is the largest prey I've seen wild dog take down? I mean, we normally see them in the Sabi sand bringing down young kudu, lots of dakas, steenbok, scrub hares, and impala, bushbuck, and yala. So yeah, so they take down a number of different things. I suppose it just depends on what area they are in. Because remember, the bigger the prey is, the more technique you need to have. So yeah, so it kind of just depends. Right, had a dip. I'm going to go roll around in the sand now. There's someone else that's still out with us this afternoon, and that's, of course, Steve-O. He's on bushwalk. Let's go and see if he's managed to find Daryl.
Good afternoon, and yes, thank you, Taylor. Looks like Scott and Taylor have had a fantastic start to their game drive. It is myself, Steve Falkerbridge, on bushwalk with the very artistic cameraman, David. We are out with Rexon, and we are lying down a little bit on the job, but we are on bushwalk and looking to show you all the small and intricates. And what we have started with is a beautiful little flower called a yellow justicia, or a justicia flava, flava meaning yellow. And what's very interesting about this beautiful flower is that the roots can be rolled into little beads and they remain a perfume for many, many years. So quite nice to put into your clothing or even as like a potpourri in your bathroom or somewhere around the house, and very nice, sweet sort of smell that will fill the house for years and years. So just a beautiful flower and a lot of fragrance. So please, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to send your questions through at Safari Live or follow us on the YouTube stream and let us know what you'd like to see this afternoon. We on bushwalk, as I said, Rexon in charge. We're going to be heading down towards Treehouse Dam, see what's happening in and around the water, but obviously on the way there's lots and lots of little things to talk about. So follow us and off we go. I just need to... It's a lovely afternoon. It's not too hot. It was a little bit hotter earlier, and the clouds have slowly moved in. It's possible we might get some rain, which is delightful. It's another good example here, Davy, of the same flower, maybe a little bit better than the last one we saw. That beautiful little 3-petal flower. If you have a look at it here, it is an absolutely gorgeous one. Look at that. Once again, all the wildflowers are out because of the rain that we've had, and the insects are absolutely loving it. Love to find an insect on one of these. Maybe we can talk about them, but we haven't yet come across one. But it is a nice afternoon. We're looking at the small and intricates. Watch your step there, Davy. Little mud wallows. Expect to see an elephant nearby. Daryl was in the open clearing earlier when we came back from morning drive. And little mud wallows, lots and lots going on in these. The life that spurns after rain is quite incredible. And because we low down on the landscape, you see the mud that is here, and that is what the animals are after. And as they come in and wallow, they pick up some mud and they move it away. They pick up some mud and move it away, rub it against the trees. It falls on the ground, and slowly but surely this gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and eventually there'll be a much bigger wallow. Tim, am I worried about ticks? Tim, you know, I got over ticks years ago. There's nothing to be done apart from spraying a little bit of DEET or insect repellent on the legs. Other than that, there's nothing to be done. So just get on with it. I've had tick bite fever a few times in my life, and all that does is lead to a very bad headache and possibly a day off work. So I'm not too bothered about tick bite fever. And the ticks, what they do, if you've ever had a mosquito bite before, it's like a mosquito bite itch that lasts for about 2 weeks. It's irritating, it's frustrating, but that is all you can do, is just scratch and get on with it. Thankfully, we haven't had many ticks this year. I actually haven't even had a tick bite this year. And James and I were discussing it in January, and we believe it's the lack of rain combined with the lack of buffalo that we have, or that we've seen on the reserve. Buffalo are a huge carrier of ticks. And in places I've worked before with buffalo, I have been inundated on every single walk. The problem is the ticks are very, very small. Baby ticks called pepper ticks. They will cover your legs. You won't even see them. You'll wake up in the middle of the night scratching. And by the time you've done that, it is too late. And then you're just going to be scratching and scratching and scratching. So it's part and parcel of bushwalks out here. So advisable to spray some form of insect repellent on the legs. I don't really like putting on sprays like that, because it's just really putting on poison, DEET and things like that on your skin for a sustained period of time. It's not ideal. There are some, I might find one. The wild basil is a very nice plant that you can make an insect repellent out. You just need a carrier oil. You add it in there, break up the leaves, and you can rub it on your skin, and it works very, very well. I think I might make some this season. Haven't yet, because we haven't had the need. The ticks have been really, really low. Darby, had any ticks yet? He shakes his head. I think Scott was saying earlier that the ticks love Steph because he probably tastes really delicious. We're not sure, but maybe it's just this season. Last year there was lots of buffalo. No buffalo this year, or that we've seen. I haven't seen any buffalo. I know when I was away a couple of herds came through, but there's not too many signs of them. And with the rain and the feeding, the ticks are probably falling off elsewhere. So, yeah, to date we are doing quite well. Just always looking at the ground. There are wonderful scrapes and scratches. I'm not sure what that is. Dune. Michelle asks, do we get June bugs? I'm not sure what a June bug is. I'm not actually sure what that is. Sorry, Michelle. Sorry, June. June bug. I don't know what a June bug is. I have no idea. I will work on it. I will have a look in my marvelous insect book when we get back and find out what it is. Maybe when I have a break I might check the amazing Google and see if I can find out what it is you are talking about. So I apologize that I don't know what a June bug is. Walking through a very nice thicket here. Haven't actually been on this path. Here we've got a beautiful little thicket. It's almost a black monkey thorn. It does. It looks like a black monkey thorn. But it is a blue thorn. In fact, you can tell it's got two very blue-like hooked thorns. You could almost mistake for knob thorn, but the leaves are much, much smaller. And if you look at the bark itself, the bark is this very flaky sort of white, flaky bark. Blue thorn. I haven't seen too much of it on the property, and there's a nice thicket of it here. But on that note, while we navigate this little thicket and get to the other side, we're going to go back over to Taylor with her wild dogs.
How cool is it that we can have one of the most endangered carnivores in Africa for World Wildlife Day? I think they must have known, and they've made an appearance. Now, I need you all to put your hands together and give a big round of applause to Senzo, because he was the one who actually found them. All credit goes to him. He'd gone to Gowrie Gate to collect some goods, and on his way back, he well, saw a pack of dogs. He actually came running to my room. He said, Taylor, there's dogs in the sands, there's dogs. And I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to have to call the Sabi Sand Wildtuin, because I thought maybe it was some dogs that had got in from the communities, because unfortunately the reality is that there are a lot of domesticated dogs that come in. And he was like, no, wild dogs. And I was so excited, because I can't even tell you when last I saw a wild dog. It has been months and months. I can't remember my last sighting of them, in fact, which is pretty sad, but I'm happy to be spending the afternoon with them. Now, we're sitting with these dogs, and you can see that most of them are adults. There might be some sub-adults in here, but they're all lying flat, so it's a bit difficult to tell when they're all sprawled out like that. Dale, you're wondering where would they keep their babies? So wild dogs will breed once a year, and they typically use termite mounds as den sites. So I'm trying to think when they do start denning. No, it should be coming into winter, in fact, if I'm not mistaken. It has been some time, though, since I've seen them. I haven't seen wild dog puppies in a very, very long time. The last pack of dogs that I saw with puppies was the Toulon pack, and that was probably mid-2016. So that should be about right. I think they do breed in winter. And a very short gestation period, so only between 2 and 2.5 months. And they'll keep them in that termite mound for the first couple of weeks of their life. So, Dale, I don't know if you know this, but it's in fact only one pair of dogs that breed. So they don't all breed with one another. There's an alpha male and an alpha female. And they're the ones that will mate with one another. And then the rest of the pack will actually help raise those young. So they've got a relatively good chance of survival. Can you imagine having lots and lots of other people running around looking after your kids for you as well? I think it's quite cool. But again, the reality is with predators and their youngsters and wild dogs being lower down on the predator hierarchy, if lions come through, they'll kill them. There are many, many different other predators that will kill wild dog pups. So they have to be very, very careful. And they can have quite a few pups too. The biggest pack of puppies I've ever seen must have been about 13. Again, the Toulon pack, which was pretty spectacular to see those fuzzy little things wagging their tails, so excited when the rest of the family comes home. And then I think the record is either 21 or 23 in one go, which is quite a lot. No, they're pretty relaxed at the moment, so it's difficult to kind of get a feel of the various personalities within this pack. But Sarah, you've asked about the sort of social hierarchy. So you've got the dominant male and you've got the dominant female, and then other than that, you don't really see too much bullying going on with dogs. There's a lot of playfulness. With wild dogs, playing is very, very important. It helps strengthen the bond, and it gives them a better chance of successfully hunting and successfully bringing something down. So other than those two, there's not too much dominance. Everyone sort of bows down to the two of them, unless of course you've got someone coming on, I don't know, that wants to maybe challenge the male, but I've never seen that happening. I've just read about those sort of instances. One thing that I was really sad was that I really, really, really wanted to see wild dogs in the Mara, and I tried my absolute best to go and find some. And we always heard the stories of a small group of dogs that would hang around the Olololo gate and just below the escarpment, but quite far north, not quite in the triangle. And then apparently there was another pack of dogs right in the southeastern corner of the Masai Mara National Reserve. And during the day, when we'd go out for those full days, when we weren't broadcasting the show as we are now, I'd zip all the way down there and scan around and try and find them. See, there was no signal, so we couldn't do it during the show. But I didn't ever have any luck. I think I just kept missing them. But I saw some pictures of them, and they looked really, really muscly in comparison. Oh, I heard something, and I wasn't sure what it was, and it happens to be, I think, a group of people. I think there might be some guests coming on safari, or perhaps there's some staff that are heading home for the afternoon. I can hear the giggling. Yes, it is some of the staff, obviously, from Djuma that are coming through now to head home back outside the gate. They'll be very excited to see these wild dogs. Right, now Scott is bundu bashing, and I don't know if he's let you on the little secret that I told him a little earlier.
I am bundu bashing indeed, and we are bundu bashing in the hope that we are going to find a male leopard that was seen. There's some squirrels going crazy ahead of us here. Maybe they've spotted the leopard. He was seen on the move, moving down the main access road into Djuma, and he veered off the road in this kind of direction. So I've just taken a massive gamble and driven into this area in the hope that we may find him. Now the squirrel is going really bananas here, so that's good prospects. I just need to get us a little bit closer to it. Oh, I can see why. A bird of prey just flew out of there. So sadly not the predator we were hoping for. But exciting stuff. There's a leopard somewhere nearby. We're just not too sure exactly where. And it's just so thick at the moment that it would be so easy to drive past the leopard, even if it was just a few meters from us. The good news is that it was heading towards a small waterhole next to one of the lodges. So I'm guessing that there's a decent chance that he's going to continue towards that waterhole for a drink. Road, I think. I've kind of got a little bit, I've gone a little bit off course on our mission here and haven't got onto the road as soon as I would have expected to, but we are enjoying the search nonetheless. Alrighty. Seb and I raced from where we were initially looking for the Hukumuri male to where we heard this leopard had been seen, and it was very, very exciting racing these little go-kart like vehicles through the bush. But no joy for now. Anyway, at least we've got a good clue and there's a leopard somewhere nearby, and hopefully it won't take us too long to find him. I'm guessing it could be Tumba. Anyway, enough about that, and over to Steve on Bushwalk.
Thanks, Scotty. What leopard might he be looking for? We are not on the game drive radio, so we don't hear all these updates of what potential leopards there might be. But awesome that he's potentially finding another one. I mean, what a start to this Saturday afternoon safari. So I just wanted to explain to some of the viewers some of the reasons why we wear these funny things on our legs to keep off. Yes, it is to protect us from potentially from snakes, but this particular plant here Noriko wanted to know about the gaiters on my leg. Have a look at this little grass here. I'm actually just going to throw that a bit. Let me just put it in this hand, Dave. Can you see that there? This is called a 3-awn grass, and the purpose of the awns, which is 1, 2, and 3, is for the distribution of this grass. If I hold the other end now, that sharp piece there is actually the seed. And that seed is designed to penetrate into fur and into wool and into socks. And if you happen to wash your socks, come home and wash your socks with a couple of these in, it's done for. You're not going to use those socks again. But the burrs themselves have no other purpose other than to turn into the skin or fur. In the wool industry, they are hated by farmers because these bore into the fur and the wool of the sheep and right into the skin, and there can be thousands of them on the pelt of the wool and could damage the overall growth of it as well, and also hurt the animal quite badly. Obviously animals out here have evolved a little bit differently. That's why these have become so aggressive to try and get transport with the animals. And so this is what we call a pioneer, and for those of you who have heard the word pioneer before, these like to move into areas and to colonize. So once they have been attached to someone's sock or to an animal, and then the animal drops it 100 meters or 50 meters or however far away, that seed will then burrow into the ground and then germinate and reclaim an area that was probably overgrazed or barren. So if you find a lot of this in an area, it means that there's overutilization, there's this overgrazing, too many animals. Okay, but walking through this plain here, there's the odd one or two of these and lots of other wonderful and special grasses, which hopefully we can find some nice inflorescence and talk about. Talking about another pioneer. And it's so nice to do it again because this is the second time of the year that these are coming up. Beautiful white called a Natal red top. And yes, I know it is not red, but when these seeds are ripe and ready, they go red. And is another pioneer. We find it all over South Africa on the road verges, and it's a beautiful plant to accumulate in your house as a flower ornament. Kaylin would like to know how it will propagate if it gets stuck in an animal. It'll get stuck in an animal, and then eventually those awns will break down and the seed will fall. Essentially, it doesn't want it to grow here. It wants it to grow somewhere else. And what happens with us is when we get home, if we don't have these gaiters on our socks, we sit there outside our room and we pull each one out, throwing it there on the sandy patch outside of our room, and it's done its job. So the animals will also get annoyed. Monkeys, everything, all these animals groom. You see them grooming, impala groom to get rid of the ticks. The spikes are quite sharp, so they actually start hurting the skin, and animals start to gnaw at that, and eventually the seed will fall down in its place. Probably a lot of them fail. A lot of pioneers. The thing to understand with pioneers is they produce, let's get rid of that one, a huge amount of seed and have a very small amount of leaf. So they don't provide a big amount of feeding for animals. Their whole objective is to provide huge amounts of seed to colonize an area and then to die off. So those are good characteristics for your pioneer species. Okay, well, we are going to talk about grasses further as we go, but while we do so, Taylor is still with her magic wild dogs.
We are indeed, and one is up just in time to watch him sit down. It was quite a big male, in fact. But again, we haven't seen them all standing up next to one another, so it's making it quite difficult to figure out who exactly we've got here. But we'll get there. We'll figure it out eventually. It's nice just to see such a large pack of dogs. So we're obviously talking about how lots of domesticated dogs make their way in from the communities. And unfortunately, when they are found, they do have to be put down because domestic dogs, and especially out here where inoculations against certain diseases don't often get done, they pass them on to a variety of the wildlife out here. So wild dogs take a huge knock from rabies and canine distemper. It's quite terrible when they do get something like that. And then you could lose an entire pack that way because they are such sociable creatures. So it's very, very sad, but I'm very, very happy to see all of them out here. Now, that dog on the right-hand side looks quite old. I don't know if you all agree with me. Don't you think? And there's that mud on its back legs. I think it might be a female. We're trying to see. Speckled fur there. It doesn't look like a young dog. Sorry, Faith. I was just quickly listening to an update on the Game Drive radio. Do you mind repeating all of that to me? I apologize. I can't multitask it yet. I'm just still getting used to the Game Drive radio. Crafty, there we go. You're wondering if only one pair is mating, does it mean that they're all related? No, not necessarily, because new packs can form, and we do see breakaways forming every now and then. But I suppose it doesn't really matter if they're all related or not, because there is only one pair that's going to be doing the breeding. But if packs get really, really large, actually, well, I'll tell you an interesting story. Very quickly. When I was working in Zambia, the owners of the camp that we were running, they had a property in Zimbabwe, and I think I may have told you the story before. And essentially, they had a massive piece of land. I forget how large it was, but it was huge, and it was all fenced off. And they had dogs, wild dogs, and amongst all the other animals that you get in Africa, all the indigenous species. And this pack of dogs was so interesting. They would breed and breed and breed, and they'd get to quite big. They get to like 30, up between 30 and 50 of them all together. And then all of a sudden, some disease would come through. Normally it was rabies or canine distemper, and would bring the pack down. And he said this would happen every 2 to 3 years. The pack would get really big, and then they'd lose almost all of them, and there'd only be 4 or 5 adults left. And this kept going. And he said it kept happening. He watched it happen over 10 years, which was quite amazing. And I don't know if it was nature trying to control the size of a pack of dogs, whether there's supposed to be that many in a pack. I'm not so sure. I can't imagine how many impalas they would eat an entire year. Imagine having 30 to 50 wild dogs running around on a property. It was massive. It was a couple of 100,000 hectares in size, so not a small property at all. And there they never really introduced any new genetics. He just said he just kept the same group of dogs. So maybe there it was a problem. Maybe it was a weakness because they weren't bringing in new genetics. But out here, there are other packs of dogs. And then, of course, you've got the dogs coming in from Kruger and all sorts over. So at some point, you're going to find a new or some more new genetics getting in some way or another. Now, they don't live for too long. I mean, they typically live to between 10 and 12 years, sort of the size of the age of a big dog. And life is really tough for them out here. Brent was not very lucky. That's the wrong word to see, but it was a very sad sighting to watch a lion take, one of the Styx lionesses, take a wild dog and kill it. But it's also sort of a privilege to see something like that, because I don't think there are many guides out there that they can say that they've actually witnessed a wild dog being killed by another predator. I mean, they normally give hyenas a bit of a hiding, and well, the hyenas do the same thing to them every now and then. I don't even know where I was going with that. Where's my goldfish memory today? I should have taken a nap, because now I can't even remember what we were talking about. Okay, well, I'll try and gather my thoughts as to why I was telling you that story. I'm going to send you back to Steve, who's probably a lot more collected than I am.
Thanks, Taylor. We found another flower. And, you know, this time of year is the time of year you need to explore and exploit what you do and don't know of the flowers. You know, I don't boast to say I know a lot, but I know a few things. And here we've got a plant called, now it's just slipped my mind. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Davey. Flannel weed. And it's quite prevalent. You know, find it quite all over the place here. And what's quite interesting about it, the only fact I really know about it, is that it was instrumental in making smokeless gunpowder many moons ago in the late 1800s. By the Boers, they actually were able to grind down. I'm not sure exactly what part of it. It might have been the seed. You can see that there's some seeds forming there in these little closed bits there. And they'd grind them down to make saltpeter, which was instrumental in the production of smokeless gunpowder. So quite an interesting little factoid there for history. How someone invented it or made it work the first time would have, I'm sure, resulted in many a burnt eyebrow or eyelashes. Because if you've ever tried to mess with gunpowder before, it is not a very tolerating substance. But marvelous to see. And obviously this time of year, they are all over the place. So it's nice to find some in some flower. What kind of bees? Is that what you said, Faith? Kathy's asking what kind of bees. Kathy, Africa has got the African bee, and there's numerous genetic variations of them. They're all the same species, but the genetics in Africa is huge. So they're all wild bees, African bees. There's no domestication of them in the wild, but there are lots of people who have hives all over the country and instrumental in all sorts of pollination. But out here, there are hives, there are places where people back over 200, 300 years ago would have carved holes into trees to encourage bees to go in, and those are quite noticeable by sort of axe wounds to the side of a tree, especially an old sort of tree like a leadwood, where they've allowed the bees to go in, and for many years they'd be able to harvest that honey as a sustainable source of nutrients for themselves. So very healthy populations in Africa of bees, because they feed on wide variety. They don't have, I know in the States there's big issues with the bees because of the monocultures. The bees are feeding on one species of plant, the pollination of one species, and that is really messing with their genetic diversity. Whereas out here, it is just endless what they can feed on. And look what we've got, Davy. We've got a little type of humming bee. I don't know what it is, but he's in this little flower. Can you see him? It is marvelous. Look at that. In this little white tubular flower. He's not moving. I wonder if you can get closer there. Not a bee. I don't know what it is. How awesome is that? He almost looks dead. Maybe he's so overjoyed by the nectar he is extracting out of that long tubular flower, and by the shape of the flower you would guess that insect has got a really long proboscis-like appendage, which is allowing it to drink the nectar all the way down that little turret. Wow, how is that? He's not flapping his wings. See if you can get in here, Davy. Yeah, I'd love to get a screenshot of that. Oh, and he's gone. He's a little hovering bee. How interesting. Look at that. There's two of them. I've never quite seen anything like that before. Kaylin, bumblebees, yes we do. We do get bumblebees all over South Africa, and the bumblebees that you're referring to are actually properly known as fruit chafers. And they actually, some of them are wood borers and some of them feed on fruit. But they bumble and they fly around, and a lot of people are quite afraid of them, but they are completely harmless. They don't cause any harm to anybody. I think that is the right term, bumblebee. And on we go. The little adventures are everywhere. And as exciting as our bushwalk is, I'm sure Taylor and her wild dogs are far more exciting at this moment. So let's go back to her.
I think I'm exciting myself so much that I can't even remember what I'm supposed to be saying today. I think where I was going with that story was how eugenetics could be introduced into a pack. I think that's where I was going. So I was going to say disease, and then of course predators, and then, well, just I suppose a little takeover. But I actually cannot even put my thoughts together. Imagine what's going to happen when these dogs get up and start chasing after animals. Sensor's going to have to start talking and telling you things, because I'm just going to be so excited. I won't know what to do with myself. And there are some of the most exciting animals out here in Africa, even though they are sleeping at the moment. Just remember, like even with sleeping lions, with sleeping leopards, you could literally have an impala, have anything run out, and off they go. Now, canine, which I think is a fitting name for the animals that we're looking at, you're wondering why are these dogs becoming extinct. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say that humans are the problem here, like with most of our animals going extinct, which is very sad to say, but, you know, we're not going to lie. So human-wildlife contact is another one. Of course, as we know, as the world starts to expand, there are less and less natural areas. We're trying to make room for all the people that are on this planet, and unfortunately we're digging into these natural wild areas. So firstly, it's habitat loss is a big one, and then sometimes dogs go in and they can hassle farmers too with sheep and things like that. But for instance, say like a big farming community in the Eastern Cape, there aren't any natural wild dogs anymore, and everybody's got fences up, so they're more worried about jackals and caracal and leopards and things coming in to take their stock. But for example, I mean, there's nothing stopping a pack of wild dogs in Kenya running through and, you know, stealing a goat or a sheep or something along those lines. And then, of course, disease. Disease is a massive one, because a lot of the, like we've just spoken about, the dogs that aren't being inoculated against certain diseases, they then pass them on. And it's no secret that there are lots and lots of dogs, for instance, in Kenya. I mean, there's plenty of video footages of dogs going out and hassling lions and doing all these crazy things. Super brave. But they'll pass on again the diseases to all these various animals. So that's one of the very many reasons and why they're being wiped out. Oh, that's nice. Yes, you can just stand there. That's obviously a male. Very nice. You're going to need a big drink of water after that. Great framing, Senzo. Looks healthy. I don't know, I'm not a vet, but I'm going to go with that. Looks healthy. All in check there. Let's see, might be a good sign for us if he's going to get up. I mean, normally with lions, when they're about to wake up, they yawn, they start stretching, they start grooming one another, they groom themselves, they relieve themselves. Let's see if this is going to be the case with the dogs. This fella seems to be quite certain. Oh, got a slight limp though. Say back left leg. He'll be alright. You can imagine when you are running at speeds like the dogs do, if you step in a hole funny, you can quite easily just jar your leg, or if you step on a thorn, it'll probably be a bit painful. But it's nothing that a little bit of adrenaline can't fix. And I bet that they have lots of adrenaline pumping through their veins when they're on the go. Now, I don't think Scott's too far away from us. He's on the search trying to find that leopard that's left the tracks in the road. Mike actually saw him, Mike Grover, and said that, or not him, I think it was actually a female that was walking up the road. So I hope that Scott manages to find whoever was leaving those tracks.
Thank you very much for your good luck, Taylor. And we are just going to show you a little bit of an idea of where this leopard's been moving. So this road here is Vuyatela access, the main access from the gate of the Sabi Sands, or the gate that we use, all the way down to the lodge, which is further down that way. This is Aubrey's Road up there, named after one of the guides, Aubrey. And the leopard was seen between this road and our camp. And we found his tracks probably somewhere where the grass is now, veering off in a kind of easterly direction towards Gallagher shortcuts. So initially we drove off-road on the tracks, well, kind of in the direction the kind of tracks were moving, and we popped out here. Now we've been going up and down, hoping that this leopard is going to pop out on the road. And eventually I'm guessing he will, but, I think for now, it's difficult to be certain when he's going to pop out. He could have gone to sleep, he could have been distracted by something to hands, could have done a U-turn and be heading in the opposite direction. But we're going to stick to our game plan and just slowly cruise down here one more time. I was just telling Seb, there's a strong chance that Hukumuri is on the property, Tingana's on the property, Tumba's on the property. I'm guessing that's who the leopard that we're looking for now. Tundi and a youngster are on the property. So a whole that we can kind of fairly safely assume they are. So a whole bunch of leopard are around, but we just can't seem to find them. No surprises there though, because they do blend in incredibly well to their surroundings, especially now that things have thickened up so much. Peter, you'd like to know if squirrels have different alarm calls for different predators. I'm guessing yes, that if you were a squirrel you could understand squirrel talk and they would be saying leopard or eagle, but for us it all sounds the same. Yeah, the same with monkeys. Most alarm calls, I'd be very, very impressed by any human who has the ability to distinguish between alarm calls. Some people may claim that they can, but they may be telling a fib. I just think it would be something very, very difficult for us to work out. Would be nice to know though exactly what all the different animals, how much they can read into the different sounds, with their senses being so much more acute than ours. Sorry, Seb just spotted the leopard and I jammed on brakes and he nearly came flying over in front of us. How lucky is this, guys? And it does look like it is in fact Tumba, just from the brief glimpse that I've got. A beautiful young male leopard. Hello. Now I'd love you guys to help confirm, because I'm just guessing, but I'm still confident that that's who it is. He's in impeccable condition, and we have hit the jackpot. Woohoo! Well done, Seb. Sorry about the crash. I was so excited when Seb spotted it, he almost went flying over the hood of the vehicle. Now, what's interesting about this young male leopard is that he seems to be camping out quite a lot on this north kind of western corner of Djuma, and it would be interesting to know how much time he's spending here without our knowledge of him actually being here. Fascinating stuff. Well, what an absolute bonus, and I am thoroughly looking forward to spending the rest of the afternoon with a beautiful young male leopard. He's flying below the radar at the moment. He's about 2 and a bit years old now. I'm not too sure exactly how old he is. We need to keep moving though. But he is a youngster, and he'll be flying below the radar. And especially more so now that there's this kind of new male on the scene, plus Tingana trying to work things out. So lots of stuff going on. We're going to try and get ahead of him quickly and call you back as soon as we do, and send you across to Steve, who's found some insects.
Thank you very much, Scott. I'm terribly sorry, ladies and gentlemen, to draw you away from that beautiful tumble. We won't keep you for long, but we thought we would just try and do a bit of an ID on this beautiful, hairy fly. Please, folks, take your screenshots out there and send them through to me on Twitter later. Love to see if I can identify it, or even if any of you out there know what it is. He is sitting very gently on a new branch of a whiteberry bush. You can see the red stem that has come forward. That has all grown out of the last little rainy period. It's unbelievable how quickly. It's a good 3-4 inches that this plant has grown since the rains, and this fly is just enjoying a little bit of respite as the temperatures have cooled down. It's probably been feeding for the day. It's probably even mated and laid some eggs. It might even, sad to say, have done all of that duty already and is now on its death throes and about to die. Sorry, but flies don't often live for very long, and I don't know much about this one, but they don't have the longest of lifespans out of, well, most of the insects. So if any of you can identify that, that would be great. And we're going to continue on. Terribly sorry to have pulled you away from that lovely man Tumba, who I still have not managed to get my eyes on. But lo and behold, I am on Game Drive in the morning, and I'm sure Scott will give me some information about where to find him, because he is a majestic young man I have seen on TV, but yet to introduce myself officially. So I wonder if any of you out there are able to identify that fly. It is quite a beautiful little hairy fly, and on the camera Dave was very excited. We almost left a few times, but he's like, no, it's too cool, we need to stay. And he was doing a very interesting squatting position there. So he's done his squats for the day, his workouts. Project Alpha believes it might be a woolly fly, a woolly bee fly. That's very interesting. That sounds about right. It looked between a bee and a fly, and it was quite woolly. So if you are an expert in that, I commend you, because that is a new one for me. Thank you very much. Please, if you can send some screenshots through, and I'll double check it in my elaborate insect book as we get back. Marvelous. There's Rex. Okay. So, enough of me and my nonsense. We're going to go back over to Scott with that beautiful second prince.
Well, I hope some of you guys managed to, in fact, help Steve in identifying that insect. We've just got ourselves into, I'm hoping, a great spot where we can just stop and let this young leopard make his way towards us. Yeah, this is going to work well. He's just behind those bushes at kind of 11 o'clock, Seb, but he is going to pop out shortly. You'll even get him now. Yeah, just behind that tree there. He's going to pop out just where my finger is. He's just stopped for a second. And he's moving into a very, very thick and tricky area for us to negotiate through. You can just make out his face in the bushes there. Here he comes. Beautiful. And I just need to call in on the game drive radio quickly that I found him. I forgot about that, just to let the other guides know that we've got lucky. But as I've wanted to do that, they've started up a discussion, so it'll have to wait a few seconds. What has he seen up ahead here? He's moving with intent. He's definitely moving with quite a lot of intent. I wonder what it is. It was 2 tiny emerald-spotted wood doves that he could obviously hear making a noise on the ground. I mean, they are the smallest of little doves, and they fluttered off. A young male like this will be very opportunistic and will definitely cash in on any opportunities to feed on tiny animals, even small birds. Oh, he is a fine, fine specimen, this leopard. He's got quite pale eyes, which help distinguish him from others. Located Tumba, he crossed over Gallagher shortcuts, heading kind of towards the waterhole, but he's in Makuluhlatin now. Child of the universe, you'd like to know, I think, why have these young males not been chased away by the bigger dominant males? It's normal for all young male leopards to have a period of their life where they'll be trespassing, essentially, but they won't be misbehaving, or they'd be foolish to misbehave whilst they are trespassing. And basically, you know, as soon as they leave home, they can't just buy a house and get a wife and get married. They need to learn about things. So that's what he's currently doing, and it's the same with Hosanna. And it's usually only at around 5 years of age that they will start competing with other bigger male leopards. Go ahead, Tax. Sorry, guys, I just need to talk to Tax and one of the other guys who's wanting to come into the sighting. Yeah, it's tricky for now, Tax. He was between Gallagher shortcuts, Waterhole, well, now he's mobile. He's continuing east. I think your best bet will be to head round to the Waterhole and stand by there. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. It's just very, very important that we sometimes put you in the back seats and other guides in the front seats so that they hopefully do the same for us when we need to get into sightings. I'm just worried about how on earth we are going to stay with him through this vegetation. It would almost be useful to just follow him on foot from a safe distance and call in the vehicles round on the other side. James and I once did that with Mvula one day during TV shows. We spent a whole day sneaking around, following him, so that he was ready for the TV show, and we handed him over to one of the old presenters, and 2 minutes before the TV show, they lost him, after a long day of James and I keeping an eye on him. Anyway, we're going to try and do our best to stay with this leopard and send you across to Taylor and the wild dogs.
We're looking at a older dog too. Not just by the yellow stained teeth and slightly worn, but also look at all the grey around the muzzle. I think this might be a female. I haven't seen just yet. You can hear some very angry crowned lapwings. They're very, very upset, flying over the dogs, not impressed with them laying around here. I think this could be maybe the alpha female. I'm just looking, very tatty. Doesn't seem to be too big, but again, it could be a male. It's quite hard to tell, so we won't make too many more assumptions. We'll actually wait for them to get up, and then hopefully we'll be able to figure it all out. Now, something that we were chatting about earlier, but no problem. I totally understand that you can sometimes miss things. But Proud Cat Mummy, you're wondering about the age as to wild dogs can get. So they can. So it's almost like, it's like a domesticated dog, is essentially. So anywhere between 10 and 12 years is typically the lifespan out here. But again, it's a tough one. It's a hard one. See, I was investigating with my binoculars, looking at teeth and all sorts of things to try and figure out what's going on and who this pack is. But I haven't really seen too many serious identifying features. But there was another wild dog in this pack, one of the males, the one that was standing up and using the luxury facilities. As I pointed out to you, I said he looks a little bit grey as well. And that's a way you can age animals. You always, of course, look at their teeth. Their teeth tell a serious story. Their ears can also tell a story. But when you ask something like, for instance, a wild dog and a seriously quick eater scrapping around a carcass, every now and then it wouldn't surprise me if you got a nick in the ear. But then also, like how your dogs, when they get older at home, you start to see them going grey. Wild dogs are very much the same. Still resting. I'm being patient. I'm trying to be as patient as I can because I know how rewarding it is to stick with dogs until they get active. So please send on through your questions, #Safari Live on Twitter, or you can also talk to us via the YouTube chat. Maybe this is your first time ever seeing wild dogs. Or perhaps you can tell me, when was the last time a pack of wild dogs was seen? You can let me know like that too. And we haven't figured out yet which pack of dogs this is. We are waiting for them to get up. And then I believe a few of you have got your ID cards ready. And I'm just trying to think. Out of the big packs, I'm pretty sure it's the Sand pack that's relatively large. I don't know if the Investec pack is still quite big. Yeah, just rolling over again. Come on, dogs. Let's get this party on a roll. It's Saturday. Now, Paul, this is a hard one to answer, actually. You're asking about territories, and if these dogs do have territories, how large can they get? Well, because they can chase prey for kilometers and kilometers and kilometers on end, they've got a relatively sort of large, I don't know if I'd call it a territory. I'd probably call it more of a home range, just because they're constantly on the go. So you could see this pack of dogs here now, and then you could also see them all the way down on Cheetah Plains in 20 minutes. So they can move huge distances. So it ranges from, I would say, 400 to 1,000 square kilometers. That's how big a wild dog sort of home range can be. I mean, 50 kilometers to them is nothing. They can move through that very, very, very quickly, which is pretty spectacular. If you've ever seen wild dogs on a hunt and how difficult it is for us to keep up with them. And that's why I was so excited to try and find wild dogs in Kenya, because I thought there's no ways I'm going to lose these animals. Never. Not with the open plains. The only way I'd probably lose them is if I got stuck, which in reality is a serious possibility. So, but still pretty spectacular. I can't believe that it's how long have I been back at work? 3 days now, day 3. And I've had a leopard every game drive, or barring one. And then I've also had, and then we've got these wild dogs, of course. I mean, how's my luck? Serious welcome home. And then, of course, Daryl the elephant being around. That's pretty spectacular as well. But it's cool now. The cloud cover is upon us, and it seems to be moving in quite quickly. You can see all those lovely clouds. Didn't look like anything threatening just yet. Some of them dark and gloomy. There's the big antenna that you just saw. But good for us, because it was very, very hot. I don't actually even know what the temperature was. I wasn't listening when Faith told me what the temperature was today, I must be honest. And but I'm going to guess it was between 28 and 30 degrees Celsius at one point. Now I don't think it's that at all. It's probably only about 25, 26 degrees Celsius. Maybe even a little bit less, because there's a nice cool breeze at the moment. So the internet is wrong. The internet is telling us that it's 29 degrees Celsius. There's no ways it's 29, because I'd be sweating and these dogs would be panting seriously. And you can see, yeah, they're breathing relatively quickly, but there's no need for them to sit in the water anymore. So it has cooled down quite a bit. I always fight with the internet about what the temperature is. But it seems as though Steve has got a little surprise for all of you. I'm excited about what it could be.
Not as exciting as wild dogs or a young male leopard, but a nice ecological thing as Dave maneuvers through the tall buffalo grass that is inundating us, or as Jamie would like to say, we are ensconced by the buffalo grass. I found something quite special on the ground here. It might not be to everyone's tastes and liking, but what has happened is the ground here is very, very hard. And I've spoken about it before, and of the importance of herbivores and their hoof. And what has happened is a herbivore has come along and it has run through the ground here. It has broken this crust open, and a little seed of a plant has managed to land in that little soft soil just underneath the crust, and it is coming into maturity. You can tell that it's a tree type of plant because it's got two leaves called a dicotyledon. When seedlings grow, either grass or from tree, they'll always show two, being dicot for most of your trees and sort of shrub plants, and grasses would be only one leaf. Impossible to tell you what it is at the moment, but it's got a kind of a three-based thing. It's potentially a black monkey orange by that shape, but it's very hard to say from here. But I find that absolutely incredible that this hard open patch here that is almost devoid of grass on that patch, just one small bit of disturbance created by an antelope moving over has allowed that to break through. So the importance of herbivores in this environment, the savanna has evolved with it. In Africa we had what was called the trekbokke, which were millions and millions of springbok that used to move up from sort of northern South Africa all the way down to Cape Town in a yearly migration. Because of fencing and stuff, that is completely gone. So all those areas in the middle of Africa, South Africa, the Karoo, have got these hard crusts, and nothing is perpetuating through it because of the lack of that disturbance. Yes, the disturbance is quite a lot, but it's very short-lived, lots of dung and urine, and the environment thrives on it. So I find that quite incredible as we climb out of this rank buffalo grass. And it's boding really well, folks, because all of this grass that you see in front of us, well, pretty much all of it, the tall one, is the buffalo grass, which is very high in nutrients, very high in leaf production. And this is what the elephants, zebras, wildebeest will be thriving on as the days go by. And if this stays, and if we get more rain and we get more, it is going to go so far into the dry season, which will obviously do very well for our beautiful antelope species. And the seeds on the end of this as well, that is what all your seed-eating birds are looking for. This is all the finches and waxbills, pitilias. This is what they're running around the ground looking for. They're not fully mature yet, but soon it's going to be a smorgasbord of food for everything. Even for me, it tastes delicious. And we're going to continue on, as always, forward into the breach, and we're going to go back up to Scott with that beautiful young leopard tumba.
Well, look at how incredible this view is of young tumba. We positioned ourselves up on a termite mound that we were hoping he was going to walk up onto, and he did in fact do that. So he's come very close to us. I'd say he's probably only about 3 meters from the vehicle, and that's what's allowed Seb to give you guys such a great view. Isn't he so beautiful? I've got my camera out snapping a few pictures, and it's incredible how relaxed the leopards of the Sabi Sands can be. What's interesting is that males often appear, especially young males, can be very relaxed with us, both in vehicles and on foot. But then as they get older, that changes, which I find quite interesting. Hello Daisy V, you would like to know who is Tumba's mother? Well, it is in fact Tundi, who is a leopardess who we've been following closely over the last few months. Her territory has shifted more onto Djuma, and she's given birth to a cub quite recently, about 4 or 5 months ago, and 4.5 months ago or so. So yes, her last cub that she raised to adulthood was this individual, and she's currently now raising a little girl. So he's been on his own for, I would say maybe 8-9 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. And aren't we just absolutely getting spoilt rotten here with these views? Incredible stuff. He's got a pink nose, which you can see there, which is also a useful feature when distinguishing him from other leopards. Bushman, you would like to know, why do we not collar any of the characters, namely the big cats? And it kind of, this Bushman, it would take the fun out of trying to find them. And half of the adventure is the thrill of the chase out here, not knowing what we're going to bump into and or when. So that's a major reason. It's also quite an intrusive process. I'm not saying that it's not justified in certain scenarios for researchers, for example, you know, where they're actually gaining useful information from the animals. But for us to just collar them so that we could view them with more ease, I think would be for the wrong reasons. Like I said, it's quite intrusive. The animal needs to be darted, which is a risky affair. Wild animals can often not respond well to being tranquilized. And then, of course, it does have a big collar around its neck. There's other ways of implanting kind of transmitters into their belly, somewhere like that. Sorry, let me just chat with Taxon quickly. Affirmative, Tax. He's on a Shidulu here next to me. Have you got a visual of my car? Okay, copy that, Tax. I can hear you. You're not far from us, but sadly, he's static for now. Sorry, everyone. So, yeah, Bushman, another thing is that they can be implanted, but that's even more intrusive because then you have to operate on the animal. So, I mean, there's a couple of reasons. I was thinking something kind of in between, which would be useful for us. It would almost be like having CCTV up. Not on every road and every corner, but basically just to have more kind of cameras, just like we have the dam cam here in Djuma. If we had more, like if we had one at each of the 4 dams at Djuma, not just the one, that would be quite useful. You know, it would just give us more clues and get us into the area, but not necessarily give us all the information that we need. This is so cool. I can't believe these views we're getting. Mind-boggling. Pixels, you'd like to know if Tumba can still recognize his mother? Yes, I'm 99% certain that for a very long time, possibly the rest of his life, he will be able to know who his mother is. And, you know, just like it's difficult for us to, well, easy for us to kind of identify people of our own human nature, it's easy for animals to distinguish one leopard from another, far easier than it is for us. And, you know, just how difficult it is for them to distinguish one human from another, it's the same for us with the animals. So, yeah, I think he'll definitely know who she is. Who knows how and when last he may have bumped into her. I've got no idea, but it would be nice to know that. That is for certain. There's so much that happens in this reserve that we don't know about. The main reason is because the majority of people driving around here are doing it during hours when the predators are not their most active. So I think so much happens after dark that nobody knows about. Not us, not any guides, no one. Only the animals. Which is quite nice in a way. It leaves our imagination room to wonder what may have happened or what does happen after darkness. This is too beautiful for words. A little bit of dappled light now coming down onto his coat. He's looking quite hungry. That's why he's so focused. You can see he's very, very intently scanning about, hoping to find a meal with those beautiful pale eyes. Sure. What a treat. Child of the universe, you'd like to know if Tumba has any hunting specialties. Not that I'm aware of. I've spent a very, very little time with him, but what I can tell you is on one occasion he proved to me that he was a useless hunter. There was a young baby impala all on its own within striking distance of him, and he just didn't pounce. I'm confident that he would have been able to see it. It wasn't a good display of how effective a predator can be. But sure, I haven't spent nearly enough time with him to know any tricks of his trade. But I'm fairly certain that he is still honing his skills. Being a youngster, he has still got a lot to learn about hunting and the ways of the wild. Alrighty, guys. Well, I'm guessing that he's not going to be resting here for too long before he gets up and moving. I'm hoping it's the same with the wild dogs across with Taylor, but I'm sure all of you guys would like to head across there and get an update and see for yourself exactly what the situation is.
Well, we've just paused for a moment. Dad jokes. Sometimes it's quite nice to have a closer look, and it's not often that we get to see wild dogs sitting still. Did you see how blunt those claws were? Now, obviously with cats, they retract their claws and keep them tucked away nicely in a sheath so that they stay nice and sharp, and they spend quite a bit of time sharpening them up on trees, and wild dogs don't do that. Cheetah don't do it either. They don't need to have sharp claws. They need to have studs, well, at the bottom of their paws, I suppose, to help them grip on the ground. They use them for a completely different reason. So that's quite nice to have a little look at those powerful feet. Now, Piney, an interesting question from you this afternoon, and it's with regards to pack members identifying one another. Do they just do it via scent, or is it by, I think the pattern on their coat was the other thing that you gave. I reckon it's a combination of scent by eyesight, whether they can look at a dog and see its pattern, I don't know. I think they would probably get their scent first, if anything, and then they probably vocally communicate with one another too. So you might find if there is a dog that's, say, been separated from its pack and is trying to find its way back, it's probably going to try and make some sort of vocalizations in order to get the attention, to try and figure out where they've gone. But scent plays a huge part in not only picking up the scent of prey, but as you rightfully said, being able to smell one another too. And the scent is something that I'm getting of these dogs. It's not my favorite. It smells like sweet, stinky cheese and a sock. I don't know. It's not nice. It's not great. I think Brent likes the smell a lot. I don't find the appeal at all. Ooh. Now, seeing as we're talking about the sense of smell, and we have got wet wild dogs here, so Justin, you're lucky today. You're wondering if the wet wild dogs smell worse than wet domestic dogs. I'm going to have to go with wet wild dogs, just because of that sweet scent that they have. And I don't know what it is that produces that. Is it because, well, they don't have a bath? And I suppose our domestic dogs are fairly clean. We often take them to the parlor. We get their coats shaved. Some of the dogs have yes, as I just said, their coats shaved. They get washed with shampoos that have all sorts of scents in them. So I don't actually know why they get that sort of sweet scent to them. But wet wild dogs, ooh, just the thought of it is making me feel queasy. But I have smelt disgusting domestic dogs too, and I can only talk about my dogs because growing up in a farm, they used to roll in all the chicken poop and the Egyptian geese poop, anything they could find, anything that had died. They'll be rolling in that too, a dead rat, dead snake, you name it. So it's a close call. So maybe it also depends on what they've been rolling in. And we try and describe how some of the stagnant water also smells after some time as well. So I think it goes hand in hand, but just the natural stench of a wild dog is not great. I can promise you right now. I don't know why. I don't know, should we ask Steve and Scott if they like the smell of a wild dog? Senzo, do you like the smell of a wild dog? He's nodding. What is it with men and the scent of a wild dog? Because I don't think Jamie likes it. I certainly do not like it at all. I'm trying to think. Who else has smelt wild dogs in FC? Is Kirsten in Final Control? She's seen wild dogs. Is Jerry there? No one. Oh, Jerry's here. Jerry, do you like the smell of wild dogs? Jerry's our producer. She's sitting in Final Control. Jerry likes the smell of the wild dogs. Oh my goodness. No. Sis, it does not appeal to my nostrils. I wish I could bottle some of the scent and somehow put it on the interweb so you could all open it and have a waft of it. I can promise you don't go, wild dogs. That's for sure. Well, I don't. I really think it smells like sweaty old socks and cheese. I don't really know how else to describe it. It's strange. And don't worry, the dogs don't seem to be offended by me talking about how they stink either. But they roll in lots of things. We've seen leopards rolling around. We see lions rolling around in different types of dung. Obviously, it's to try and mask their scent. Now, we were talking about whether they've eaten or not, and Matt, you're wondering if I think it looks like they're already full. I don't think they've got bursting bellies, and some of them have, that one's got a big belly, but some of them have got bigger bellies than others. So it's a bit hard to tell. I've seen wild dogs after they've feasted on, say, an impala, and their bellies are normally a lot more swollen than that. So maybe they caught something small early this morning, and then they went on the move, and then they decided to settle down somewhere around here. I don't also remember seeing much game in this area where we are right now, and typically it's filled with impalas, but I didn't see many running around here this morning. So I don't think, if they have eaten something, I don't think it's going to be very much. And wild dogs, if it is just a small meal, they'll hunt in the morning and they'll hunt in the afternoon. So there's still a chance for them to get up and go on the move. Or maybe they're just going to stay here for the whole day. That would be nice, though, because that means we could potentially have wild dog first thing tomorrow morning, which is always a joy. I hope they do hang around, because we don't get to see them very often. It's a real special sight. Look at all those ticks in that dog's ear. Can you see them? Just every now and then, if it flicks it up kindly to us. Okay, now we can't see it. Okay, that'll be the next thing we talk about. We'll try and have a look in one of the dog's ears and see all the parasites. But off you go to Steve to find out why, or not why, if he likes the scent of a wild dog.
The smell of wild dogs, Taylor. Who likes the smell of wild dogs? Rex is just giving us a heads up. I do not like the smell of it. Rex has just spotted some elephant. So, Darby, if you just want to come my side here, you can see them just over there. Looks like a male. Just walking. Just get him through the branches there. Rex, the ever-present. So no, I do not like the smell of wet dog. And an animal that is known to not get bathed by its owner and to roll in the feces and death of other animals. I mean, I think you can all make up that decision for yourself. And we're going to quickly go over to Scott.
Well, we're not too sure what has got his attention, but there's something moving in the bushes just ahead of him. I can see some wriggling. I think it could be a monitor or a tree squirrel. Just zoom out a bit, Seb. I can see the animal moving on the twigs just in front of him. In those twigs in the thicket there, you can actually see a little bit of movement now. So if we just keep this frame, that'll be perfect, because we'll be able to see whatever it is wriggling around in the bushes ahead of him. Tiny bit more out, Seb. It was just on the top of your frame there. There we go. That's perfect. Now something directly above the kind of biggest dead stump. Beyond that, there's something moving around in and amongst the twigs there. There, you can see it moving. What is it? And yes, we are ready to invite some other viewers to this exciting scene, so I'm just going to keep quiet for a second as we do that. Hello everyone, welcome to this unscheduled broadcast. As you can see, there is a leopard that is ready to pounce. I'm not too sure what it is that's rummaging around and wriggling around in the bushes just ahead of it. Basically, if you keep a very close eye on the kind of biggest dead stump directly to the left of the leopard, beyond that broken stump, there you can see something moving. There it is. You may have just got a glimpse of it. And he's a young male leopard, so highly opportunistic. He'll take whatever he can get. Maybe it's a snake, maybe it's a monitor lizard, maybe it's a squirrel moving through there. But good prospects for him to... Oh, he was about to move. He was about to make his pounce there. I think it's a squirrel. Yeah, I can see it now. It's a squirrel moving through that undergrowth. And even though it's a tiny little animal, he would be happy to snack on it and practice his hunting skills. It's right at the top of the frame now, Seb, the squirrel. Have you seen it yet, Seb? Okay. It's just over there. So I was just showing Seb, who I'm teamed up with on camera, exactly where the squirrel is. I can't believe how close the leopard is, and is still not decided to pounce just yet. Whew, exciting stuff. Now, I haven't mentioned, but I'm sure a lot of you have gathered that we are coming to you live from the Sabi Sands in South Africa. And please put all of your thoughts and comments in the question box, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. It's 5:20 p.m. here in South Africa, and it's a beautiful sunny afternoon. Guide Monkey, you would like to know how far away is he from the squirrel? I would say within 2 meters of the squirrel, but he knows full well, even though he's young, that this little squirrel is very, very quick and agile. So he's waiting to pounce at the right time. And if you blink, you will miss it. I wonder where the squirrel is now. It looks like it's coming closer towards him, judging by his movements. Well, as you can see, he's decided now that he needs to creep up a little bit further forward. And watch closely. He'll place his back foot exactly where his front foot registered, trying to make as little noise as possible. Oh, I think he's going to pounce. Any second now he could pounce. Come on, Tumba. Show us how good you are. I've got nothing against squirrels, but I just love supporting the predators. Oh, there he goes. And the squirrel's gone up the tree. Well, I mean, if you can avoid being caught by a leopard when it's that close to you, you deserve it. And I would love to try and show you the squirrel now, but it headed straight up that big tree, and I can't actually see it now. The squirrel's probably terrified. It hasn't even had time to start alarm calling, which they ordinarily would do at a young or at any leopard or any predator, really. My name's Scott. It was great to have you on this short, unscheduled broadcast. If you'd like to continue following the action, you're more than welcome to. We're still going to be out on safari for about another hour and a half, so you can just Google Safari Live, and that will probably be the easiest way to find us. Until the next action, we will see you next time. Thanks for joining. Well, you are one lucky squirrel. And if I were you, I would also be having a little tantrum. This is awesome. Shoof. Well, I don't want to stay with the squirrel too long because we need to keep an eye on this leopard. I'm guessing he's going to move out of the area now. Jeez. A wonderful, wonderful show of the squirrel's speed and agility. Tumba did well though. I mean, he got fairly close. Oh, well, things are going from good to better. The wild dogs are up and on the move, and so are you to join Taylor and them.
How very cool, little Tumbalicious. Being amazing as normal. I actually can't wait to see him. I hope I get a chance to see him over the next few weeks to see how much he has grown. But our dogs aren't doing too much still. They're still just relaxing and just enjoying the afternoon sun. We've got some nice golden light on them now, just catching those beautiful sort of chestnut coloured eyes. Very stunning eyes. That's actually the only colour I've ever seen on a wild dog before. Is that sort of... Is it chestnut? Would you say chestnut? No. What other colours could we use to describe the eyes of a wild dog? They are lovely. You can help me. You can hashtag Safari Live. Perhaps your colour palette is a bit more advanced than mine. Look at that light just catching it there. That's gorgeous. Really, really gorgeous. They must feel like they're looking into your soul when they do stare at you like that. And that one's got very white, shiny teeth. In very good condition too. But dry noses, that's not normally a good sign. Maybe it's just a bit crusty because they have been sitting in the mud. That could be a possibility. I mean, typically with dogs, and we do the same thing with buffaloes, if they've got a wet nose, it means they're in good nick. Now, we were looking, and we had a fantastic close-up a little while ago. Shall we see if we can have another look? Senzo, where shall we go? Let me go back. I don't know if there's no more lying on the road, so it's hard to have a look at their feet. Let's see if we can get a little gap here. What about that? Maybe. We'll give it a bash. The reason why I want to have a closer look at their feet is because Sharon was wondering how do they keep their nails, well, I suppose, filed so perfectly. You can't see them too well, but better than nothing. It's just purely from running on the various substrates. So going from gravel to grass to sand. They're constantly on the move. Their feet do take a bit of a beating. I'd imagine their pads underneath their feet as well are quite tough and used to the various terrains. So that's all it is. It's just filing it down naturally. They don't need to get the nails clipped like our domestic dogs do. Again, also some nice white teeth. See, there's that beautiful golden light. Come on, you lot. Please wake up. You can see you want to. I mean, they haven't been fast asleep once. They're up and down, up and down. And every time a bird alarms, a francolin or something gets a fright, you will see that they pop their heads up, kind of like cheetah, always looking around, not wanting to go in too much of a comatose sleep, although there's one or two that have nestled themselves in the grass quite nicely. I'm a little bit envious. And some bugs annoying them too, twitching their ears. But not too many today. The biting flies don't seem to be out in full force. And someone that would be affected by the biting flies, perhaps more than these wild dogs and myself and Senzo, is Steve, because he's on walk. Let's go see if he's got a quarry branch to swat them away.
I know Taylor went for a run earlier. I wonder if she trims her toes but that way as well, like the dogs do. I'm just trying to imagine the thought of wearing our toenails down by running. It would seem to be quite painful if they grew to such an extent. But folks, what we've done is we are in the road, but I want to talk to you about something else that's about disturbance. And we saw that little disturbance earlier of what possibly an impala hoof or something breaking the crust open. And here we have another little sequence inside of the circle that I've drawn out. And there's some tracks here of what's potentially a hoopoe or a dove. It's very hard to tell them apart, but it's come along here, it's walked in, and it's done a little dust bath. Those of you who were with me the other day saw the hoopoe dust bathing. It's something that they do to pick up this fine dust, to get it into their feathers. It's like talcum powder. It takes off all the extra preen oil. But this is the road. Yes, it's a human-made obstacle, but out there in the wilderness, those little areas like that impala damaged, birds will scratch that and birds will disturb that. They'll dust bath and they'll cause the disturbance, which allows plants to grow inside the road. There's an example right here of a grass growing inside the road, and that wouldn't have done so without some form of disturbance. These roads are quite compacted, just like the ground outside. Without this disturbance factor, it would be impossible for a lot of plants to follow on the successional stage from open area into the grassland that you see off to the right here. It all starts off like this, and it eventually becomes Something like that. Marvelous stuff, really is. Lovely light. Okay, we came past Twin Dams and we had that elephant, and I'm glad we were able to get you to cross to Scott quickly with Tumba. Pity about the squirrel he didn't manage to catch, but that would have been just a little morsel in his mouth. We're probably going to go down to Twin Dams. I think I said Treehouse Dam we've come from. We head down to Twin Dams now, see what's going on. It seems to be pretty quiet on the animal front, but we've got flowers, we've got tracks, we've got grass, we've got the wind in our faces. It's a marvelous afternoon. And yes, it was quite warm earlier, but it's feeling quite nice. It's a little bit sweaty, but that's just because we're out on foot. The wind is picking up. There might be a storm blowing in from the east. That's where a lot of the weather comes from the Indian Ocean, from the storms that develop out there. So a little bit more rain, I think, will do this property really, really well. It's really looking so much better. Dave and I were commenting how when we went on leave, how different this was, how you could quite easily walk through here without too much of an effort. But the tracking is very difficult. The ground is very, very hard, but yet the grasses have just reciprocated with the rain, grown out, looking magnificent. But the animals, because of the rain, are spread far and wide. The normal strategy to find animals is to sort of move into an area where there's some water, and you'll generally find them nearby. But because there's water all over the place and green grass everywhere, they don't need to hang out here. Puma asks how successful are caracal and serval in the Sabi Sands. Caracal do quite well down here. Lots of ground nesting birds. I haven't seen a caracal in some time, but when I did some work in the sands years ago, caracal were quite dominant there. Up here, I think the guys have told me about caracal before. I've yet to see one. There's lots of ground nesting birds. They specialize on francolins and all those things that jump out of the grass. And serval do something quite similar. We've had serval tracks. I haven't seen one. I don't think they're as common down here as they are in the Masai Mara. I've yet to see a serval in the Djuma or in the Sabi Sands, but I did see quite a few of them in my time at Singita in the Kruger National Park. So I think they might need a little bit more open landscape as you find in the Mara, whereas caracal, this is perfect habitat for them. But they're so easily just passed by. They could be caracal just watching us everywhere. There could be an army of them. Not that they occur in armies, but it's very hard to see something that if it detects our presence will just crouch down and disappear into a bit of grass, only that tall, be completely invisible to the untrained eye. Davy B, there is no quicksand in South Africa South Africa that I've ever heard of. I've only ever seen it in movies. I wasn't even sure it was a real thing. I have no idea. Davy, you heard of quicksand? I've only ever seen it in the cartoons and in movies. Sort of mud flats. I'm not sure. Very good question. Really not sure. You can hear some Aramark babblers calling over here. Cape turtle doves. The chirping sound of the babblers. There's a group of them just dancing around in the bushes there. Don't know if you can get them, Davy. Nice cooperative breeder. There'll be an alpha male and female similar to that of the wild dogs, and the rest will assist, here we go, in the rearing of the chicks. The call that you can hear is referred to as allomimetic behavior, where they come together as a group and they fly from tree to tree, from tree to tree, similar to what the wild dogs do in their greetings, to sort of boost up morale, to sort of get their spirit going, and to reaffirm bonds. And they do it also as a territorial sort of advance on other groups. If I had to play that call now, they would, without doubt, come straight through over here. Should we give it a go? I think we should. They will come and they're going to challenge me. because that's what they like to do. I am essentially about to play a call that's going to challenge them in their territory, and like the woodhoopers, they will come. Just like if you had to play a leopard call in its territory, it would most likely probably come and say hello. There, I'll play it just once. I can see one. It's just over the top there. I think they're trying to figure out what was that. I'll play it one more time. There they come. We just had a flyby. Two of them, they flew by, weren't quite sure what we were. There's a third one in the tree. You can see him jumping around there, Davy. You see him at the back there? Just at the back there. Okay, well I'm not... There he goes. I don't think they liked that challenge. Normally, these birds will come and say hello, but it's possible that they were skirting just on the outside. Yeah, they're calling behind us now. They've gone back into their territory. They're probably marauding a little bit too far out of their boundaries. They've gone back to collect the troops. Maybe they come sort us out soon. Okay. Lovely, the sounds of hornbills calling. The bush really is alive this time of year. Everyone reaffirming their bonds. Lots of food. A lot of birds will breed for a second time now because it's, what can you do when the sun is shining and there's food. You can hear the yellow-billed hornbills calling there. Not sure if they will have another clutch, but birds like babblers, a lot of your small breeding birds will definitely have another one. Franklins will definitely be enjoying this flush. But we're going to carry on down to the next dam, and we go back to Scott, who I believe is got an update, but he's busy driving.
Yes, we've lost old Tumba temporarily, but like I said, hopefully it's just temporarily. We've just heard some squirrels alarm calling further up in this direction over here, so he may have already slunk through a little area where we had to loop ahead of him. It was just too thick for us to follow him. So I'm hoping we're going to catch up with him again. It would be terrible to say goodbye to him so early on this magical afternoon. Now, the reality is that maybe it was a bird of prey that the squirrel's alarm calling at. Hopefully not though, hopefully it is the leopard that the squirrel has seen. Oh, sorry Franklin. I'm just going to stop again here and listen. And see if we can't find anything here. Or see the squirrel. That's alarming. The squirrel's still further off to our right somewhere. I can't see it. Now, Daisy B, you would like to know if young male leopards like hanging around kind of in an area where their father also hangs out because it comes with a little bit of security. And yes, I think there is an element of yeah. Monkeys, huh? Just heard some monkeys alarming down there. Okay, well, I wonder what's going on here. We're getting quite close to the area where the Hukumuri male leopard was seen this morning. So maybe the monkeys have seen him, maybe the monkeys have seen Tumba, but there's some monkeys up ahead here that are shouting away. So let's go and try and work out what it is that they've seen. So yeah, I think there is an element, sorry, back to your question, Daisy B, of young leopards kind of lurking in their father's territories for a bit of security, but it's not something that's kind of overboard, and you don't find young male leopards getting any major bonuses from their fathers. If anything, their father's going to steal their kills from them, just like what happens with Hosanna and Tingana. So So yeah, I think there's an element of it, but nothing too serious. Well, the monkeys are alarm calling somewhere up here. It's incredible how quickly these animals can move. Once you lose them, in just a few minutes they can move quite a long distance in the direction that you don't necessarily presume that they have moved in. Okay, more monkeys alarm calling here. We're getting closer. Where is the leopard? The other tricky thing with monkeys alarm calling is that they can see a long way. So if you race to the base of the tree where the monkeys are shouting, they could be looking a couple of 100 meters in another direction. Okay, let's see what the monkeys are doing here. Just want to get into a spot where Seb can actually get one on camera. Okay, so here are all the monkeys sitting up in the tree over there, and they're all looking out kind of in this general direction. Oh, there's a tiny little youngster, and you can hear their calls, which is their alarm call. Okay, well, we're going to concentrate here and send you away while I try and do that, because concentrating for me is a tricky task, and we will be sending you off to Taylor and the wild dogs.
Now, I'm a little bit nervous because for the first time we've been in the sighting, these dogs seem to be fast asleep, just every now and then popping their heads up and down. Hopefully it won't be too long-lived, because I'm starting to feel just as tired as these dogs. Just joking, that was a fake yawn, that wasn't real. I've got way too much energy to be tired. Now, we were talking about the puppies a little bit earlier, and where they den and all those types of wonderful things. But Carol, you were wondering about the puppies, if their pattern on their coats is the same as the adults. It's fairly similar, but what I'm going to do is, Carol, I'm going to try and talk and Google at the same time. Let me Google. I don't really have much signal. My phone likes to freeze. Wild dog puppies, because you have to see how cute they are. I don't know if you've ever seen a wild dog puppy before, but yeah, their coloration is fairly similar. It doesn't change very much at all. So I'm going to show you the black hair around the face is always quite interesting though. I've only ever seen wild dog puppies when they're maybe 2 to 3 weeks old, a little bit older than that perhaps, not when they're really, really teeny tiny. Here's a great one. Have a look at this. I should probably put my phone on flight mode, unfortunately. Let's open that one. Oh, snap. There we go. How cute are those things? It's not the clearest picture, I'm afraid. Sorry, there's a slight glare on my phone. But you can see the white still comes through. And then as they get a little bit older, you might see different patches of brown coming through. But very much like the adults, basically. So it's quite cool. They're very, very sweet. Now, I don't think Djuma has ever been fortunate enough to have a pack of dogs den on the property. Well, definitely not since I've been here. So let's hope that they do stick around and try and find a spot. They do like to use the same dens over and over, but you never know. Or maybe a few years ago they were denning here, but it hasn't been for the last 3 years, I don't think. Now, take care. I'm just trying to look at the dogs now. You're wondering if they always have black muzzles. Typically, I don't think I've ever seen a wild dog with sort of any patches on its face. Nothing like that. So typically that muzzle is quite nice and dark. And then the coloration varies sort of from the eyes up. You might get some that have white patches close to their face. Might be sort of more tawny brown. I mean, I've seen some dogs that have a lot of white on them, and it looks quite strange. And in fact, I think there is a dog from one of the packs that we do see that has got an unusual amount of white on it. Perhaps somebody could pop a screenshot onto Twitter so everybody can have a look if you know which dog I'm talking about. I'm so sorry I'm not being very helpful in terms of which pack it's from. I just can't remember. If I must be honest, it's so strange coming back to an area that you are so used to, but trying to remember all the characters that come into the area and move around. But you can see, panting, fast asleep, flat. Don't look like they're going to get up and do anything just yet. But we've got our patience pants on, and we are going to sit it out. I feel as though we've committed almost 2 hours already. We can't give up just yet. Now, we did see the wild dogs in a mud wallow just a little while ago when we first arrived, and Millie, who's only 8 years old, you've asked if they like swimming. Yes, they do. They love swimming. It's one of their favorite things to do, especially on a really, really nice hot day. They will jump on in the water and they will sit around the mud wallows. But when I was working down at Sabi, there was a big dam, and we'd often see them sort of chest deep in the water running around, splashing one another. And hyenas will do a similar thing too. Who remembers that incredible sighting I had where a couple of the sub-adult hyenas were chasing one another around and they just jumped literally and bomb dropped straight into one of the drainage lines? That was quite funny. So both those species are quite playful with one another, and they're not afraid of water at all. They quite enjoy it, in fact. It's a nice way to cool down in the mud, lots of water, which is awesome, kind of like us. Oh, goodness, Steve is on a roll today. As you know, he's been walking around. He's actually gone quite far. In fact, well done, Steve. Give us a shout if you need a ride on home. I'll be your Uber. But apparently he's got something else to show you.
Thanks, Taylor. Taylor's offering to come pick us up. How kind. We've spotted a couple of ants on a tree here. I wonder if any of you out there have any idea what tree this is. The ants are acting quite aggressive on the tree, and once again, as I discussed yesterday on Bushwalk, I have a feeling that they are harvesting or farming aphids. There doesn't seem to be any other sort of creature on there, and these aphids are often so small, it's difficult to see with the naked eye, but they are moving around quite vigorously. And here we've got a little bugger. What's this here? Who's this over here, Dave? Just on the side here, above my finger. No idea what that is. Just over there. He's a funny looking creature. So I'm wondering if any of the viewers out there know what tree this is. And if they know what this insect is as well, send a screenshot, please. It's so tiny, I can barely see it. So with the lens Dave got, we'll be able to get nice and close in on it. But it's possible that the ants are looking after individuals like that. Safari Wildman is not a bee tree. No, not a bee tree. Anybody else, please have another guess. I've told people before, it's very characteristic. Oh, Josh, not a silver cluster leaf, but if you look closely at the leaves, you'll see there are little pixels on the leaves. Tiny little pixels on both sides. It's got a little bit of a grey sheen to it, which is a lot of people might think of the cluster leaf. And then if Dave goes out just a touch, you'll be able to notice that these branches are also opposite. Ooh, and there's a little worm. Look at that. Right there in front of my fingers. Look at him moving. Can you see him?
Oh, yeah.
This tree is a small little leadwood tree, folks. And we are having so much fun looking at all these little creatures. The longer we spend, the more we see. And ants like that can also be quite predatory. So it's possible that they're running around looking for all sorts of things like this little caterpillar, which obviously is trying to be as camouflaged as he can be until I disturbed his rest. He was mimicking a branch, and hopefully the ants don't find him, because that would be terrible. We might have to do an action broadcast on the ants versus the caterpillar. Wouldn't that be a show? And over here we've got some more interesting stuff on another leadwood. Faith almost got me there in my ear. Here we've got some galls on another leadwood. But just to identify the leadwood, everybody, the leaves or the branches come off at a perpendicular angle. 2 of them, and then 2 of them again, 2 and 2. And that's how they are. They're 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. And then if you look at the leaves, they're greyish tinge with pixels on them. Very easy to identify when they're quite small. Most people identify large leadwoods. And here we've got some galls. Now, what has created these galls is you get wasps. I spoke about this the other day, and this is obviously probably a leadwood-specific wasp. I've never seen it on a leadwood before. And the wasp impregnates or jabs the leadwood, the branch with a growth hormone, forming this gall, and then lays eggs inside. Very interesting. I wonder if anyone has seen a gall like this before on a leadwood. I haven't, and there's quite a number of them on this specific one itself. So that's quite interesting. It's all happening. The leaves are having a bit of a wilt over here. This tree is rather sick. So what happened? Have a look at that branch there, Dave. Have a look. This tree is completely under attack from wasps, and all sorts of things are going on. The flowers, it won't produce flowers and fruit when it's sick like this. So that's what happens when a tree is not at optimum health. It won't produce. So a lot of these things will actually lead to the detriment of the plant. I'd love to know what these wasps are, but a lot of the damage has already been done. You can see that the leaves are looking like there's some form of leaf blight on there. But absolutely marvelous, just small little ecosystems, and everything that's going on here is just one small unit in this entire enormous ecosystem we call the savanna. And just here in Djuma. Yes, Josh, they are the spooky trees, because the big branches, they lead to these really long dead branches on the outside. They're grey and they're mystifying, and they're really good for taking photography, especially with the background like a sun setting. But they're also quite traditional for the locals, because they can live for over 1,000 years. And they also, when they die, can stand for 100, 150 years with these long, dead branches hanging out, as you say, quite spooky, and very traditional for locals. And they'll always walk past, the Shangans walk past and go, Makosi, because they believe their spirits and their ancestors live in that tree, and they pay respect and homage, because through generation after generation, that tree has lived. And even if it dies, at least 2 generations will pass before that tree dissolves back into the soil. So I think that's quite marvelous. And from insects to human culture, really, really something special. So we're going to continue. We're almost at Twin Dams, and while we do so, I think Scott is still in the search for that magical young leopard tumba.
Yes, we are still searching, but our search is becoming more and more futile every second that passes, because the leopard could be further and further away. We headed into this spot because we saw a giraffe looking in this direction. And giraffe can be wonderful assistants when looking for predators, especially predators like leopard and cheetah, because giraffe will just stand their ground and stare at them, even if a leopard's walking 10 meters from it. So we were hoping the giraffe may know something that we don't, but it doesn't appear to be the case for now. I'm astounded at the area we lost him in. We followed him through some really tricky stuff this afternoon, and the area where you kind of least expected to lose him was exactly where we lost him. Oh well. It's been such a cool afternoon with him that we would be greedy to want too much more. Costa, you'd like to know what is the age difference between a tumba and another young male leopard called Hosanna? I'm not entirely sure of the fine details. All I know is that Hosanna is slightly older than tumba. I think a few months, nothing too serious. Okay, well, I think we need to get back onto the road now, and I'm thinking of actually heading back to where Hukumuri had his kill. And I must reiterate that where we last had tumba was very close to where Hukumuri was last seen this morning. You wonder how many times they've come into contact with one another, and also what would happen in those scenarios. Does a big male leopard like the Hukumuri just be like, "Ah, little kid, it's not even worth wasting my energy chasing you or fighting with you because you've got nothing to provide me with"? I'm sure the young males do kind of steer clear of them. I just want to stop here because our giraffe friend is straight up ahead of us. You See how he's staring so intently like that? That's looking positive. Let's race across there. Initially he was looking more towards where we are here. But with the vegetation being so long at the moment, you know, the leopard could have been right here and then just moved behind a bush away from us without us even seeing him. So this is still looking promising. Oh, the giraffe's looking back at us. Maybe the giraffe knows exactly what we're doing and he's just sending us all over the show for fun. The monkeys that we saw earlier were also looking in this direction when they were alarm calling, so hopefully a combination of all these signs is going to lead us to the leopard.